Somewhere along the way, somebody convinced you that charisma is a birthright, that certain women walk into a room and the air shifts, and everyone else just gets to watch. It sounds harmless. It is actually the most expensive lie you have ever believed, because it handed you a permission slip to stay invisible. So let me be direct. Over the next 10 minutes, I am going to show you what charisma actually is, according to the research. And I'm going to hand you the 4 mechanics that make people crave your presence. And I mean crave in the clinical sense. In 2011, a research team at the University of Lausanne in Switzerland decided to test the birthright theory directly. They took a group of ordinary middle managers and trained them in 12 specific teachable behaviors. Things like vocal delivery, gestures, and the stories they told. 3 months later, hundreds of their own coworkers rated them again, and the charisma scores came back significantly higher. The managers had learned new behaviors. Charisma is not a personality. It is a set of behaviors, which means every magnetic woman you have ever envied was running a construct that you were simply never handed. But the birthright myth is only half the con. The other half was custom built for you, and it started before you could spell your own name. While boys were being coached to speak up, you were being graded on how easy you were to be around. Smile more, agree faster, take up less space. By 12 years old, you could read a room like a stock ticker, and you learned to hand every room exactly what it wanted. Gillian Flynn put a name on the finished product in Gone Girl, the cool girl. The woman who studies whatever the man in front of her enjoys and becomes it, effortlessly, endlessly, with no needs of her own. Readers felt sick when they met her on the page because they recognized the job description. And here is the trap inside all of that training. Likeability asks you to be frictionless, and frictionless things leave no mark. Think about the women you cannot stop watching, on screen or across a dinner table. None of them are agreeable. They have edges, opinions that cost them something, and they would rather be misread than be beige, because being liked and being magnetic are 2 different careers. One of them pays you in approval, the other one pays you in gravity. So do not hear this as permission to go cold. The research says warmth wins. And the first mechanic has been hiding in plain sight your whole life. The first mechanic is attention, the full, undivided, unhurried kind. You already know how rare that has become. You have watched someone's eyes slide to their phone in the middle of your sentence, and you have felt the temperature in the room drop. People who met Princess Diana described the same experience for decades. For the minutes she was with you, you were the only person on Earth. She would kneel to meet children at eye level. She would sit on hospital beds when protocol said stand, cameras everywhere, a schedule cut into minutes, and still she gave every stranger the one thing fame never has to give, all of her. People walked away from 90 seconds with that woman and talked about it for the rest of their lives. There is hard science underneath the magic. Psychologists Susan Fiske and Amy Cuddy showed that humans judge each other on 2 dimensions, warmth and competence, and warmth gets judged first. Your brain decides friend or threat long before it asks talented or not. And together, those 2 judgments drive more than 80% of the impression you leave. So, the polish, the credentials, the achievement voice you lead with in every new room, that answers the second question. Charismatic women answer the first one, with attention. Warmth opens the door. But warmth alone makes you pleasant, and pleasant was never the assignment. The next mechanic is the one high achievers get completely backwards. In 1966, psychologist Elliot Aronson ran an experiment with a mean little twist. Participants listened to recordings of quiz contestants, and one of them was brilliant, answering nearly everything correctly. Then, at the very end, he clumsily spilled coffee all over himself, and his likability went up. The identical spill from an average contestant sent likability straight down. Psychologists named it the pratfall effect. Proven competence plus one small flaw beats flawless every single time, because flawless reads as distance, and a flaw reads as an invitation. You watched this play out live in 2013, when Jennifer Lawrence tripped on her gown on the stairs to collect her Academy Award. She stood at the podium and joked that the standing ovation was pure pity. The clip could have buried her. Instead, the internet fell in love. The competence was already proven. The stumble made her touchable. And touchable is magnetic. So stop sanding yourself down. You have spent years proving you are excellent. Now, let one honest imperfection breathe on top of it, because the gap between polished and perfect is where people fall for you. If any of this is landing, take 1 second and subscribe. I break down the psychology of magnetic women every single week. Now, the mechanic that makes the title of this video literal. In 2012, Harvard neuroscientists Diana Tamir and Jason Mitchell put people inside brain scanners and asked them questions about themselves. Every time people talked about themselves, their reward circuitry lit up. The same dopamine system that fires for food, for money, for pleasure. Then it got better. People in the study turned down cash they could have earned answering questions about others. They took a pay cut for the privilege of talking about themselves. And on average, humans spend 30 to 40% of everything we say describing our own experiences and our own opinions. Now, read that as a strategy. Every conversation has a spotlight, and untrained people fight for it all night. A charismatic woman hands it over on purpose, then runs it like a director. She asks the question underneath the question. She remembers the detail from 3 weeks ago and brings it back like it mattered. Because it did. She lets the story finish before she adds her own, if she adds it at all. And this is the opposite of shrinking. You become the most valuable seat in the room because you are the only place they get to feel fully heard. They will leave convinced you are the most fascinating woman they have ever met, and they will not be able to name one fact about you. That is the transfer. They're high, wired to your presence, but dopamine has one more rule. And this is the part where I need you to stay clean. Behavioral scientists have known since the Skinner experiments that the most compulsive behavior on Earth comes from unpredictable rewards. A slot machine pays out on no schedule at all. And that is exactly why casinos never go broke. Manipulators weaponize this with hot and cold behavior, with breadcrumbs, with silence engineered to keep someone pulling the lever. You will not be doing any of that because you will not need to. Here is the clean version. Stop being infinitely available. A woman with a full calendar, real standards, and somewhere else to be creates the same neurological pull without playing a single game. When your presence stops being guaranteed, your presence becomes an event. Leave the party while you are still having fun. Let a text sit until you actually have something to say. Scarcity, done honestly, is just the exhaust of a life you are genuinely living, and people can read it from across the room. Which brings us to the final minute, and to the question this entire video was built to ask you. Let us assemble the construct. You lead with warmth, because every brain decides friend before it decides impressive. You give undivided attention in a world that forgot what it feels like. You let one honest flaw breathe on top of a proven excellence. You hand over the spotlight and run it like a director. And you stay just scarce enough that your presence never turns into wallpaper. One last piece of science, and it explains why this video ends right now. Daniel Kahneman's research showed that people judge an experience almost entirely by its most intense moment and how it ended. The length barely registers. So, leave at the peak. End the conversation one beat early, and let the last thing they remember be you, mid-laugh. Now, here is your question, and I want you to actually answer it. Would you rather be easy to like or impossible to forget? You already know which one you were trained for, and you just found out the other one is a set of behaviors. And behaviors can be practiced, starting with the next room you walk into. Your 10 minutes are up. What you do with every room after this one is entirely up to you. Stay hot.